Shalom, shalom. This is part 2 of the Sabbath lesson that we were just going into before the camera shut off. And I was showing you in the Strong's Concordance, Deuteronomy 33 and chapter 14, found in your concordance, which will lead you to the definition of that passage there. Let me find where I was. 33 and 14, right here. We're going to go into our concordance. Boom. 3391, Yarah or Yarach in the Paleo Hebrew, Yarach, meaning moon. And the definition for it says moon, lunar month, months, month, full month, moon. So right there, the moon is identified as the lunar month, right? It's a lunar month. Lunar month. Sorry about that. H3391, Yarach, lunar cycle, moon, calendar month. You can find that definition on the Blue Letter Bible, right? Let's go into Numbers 10:10. Right, Numbers 10:10, and then we'll go into describing how the new moon is a Sabbath. It's a set apart solemn feast. It's actually represented in the scriptures as being like somewhat of a high holy day of observance. The new month, the new moon, is the beginning of your Sabbaths. Numbers 10:10, right? Numbers 10:10. Numbers 10:10. It says, also in the day of your gladness and in your solemn days and in the beginning of your months, you shall blow the trumpets over your burnt offerings. So in the beginning of your months, which is represented by the new moon, which marks the new Sabbath for the entire month, you shall blow the trumpets over your burnt offerings and over your sacrifices of your peace offerings, that they may be to you for a memorial before your power Yahweh. I am Yahweh, your Elohim. So in the beginning of your months, there is a gathering to bring forth your peace offerings. And you would not want to be doing all this on a work day. So you work 6 days, and on the 7th day, you rest. And in particular, in the new months is when you bring up your offerings to the priest, right? We're going to jump into Ezekiel. Ezekiel, do I have that one? Yeah, I got it. Ezekiel 35. Ezekiel 45, sorry. Ezekiel 45. So, the new moon, representing your Sabbaths, right? Let's see if I can see this right. Okay. So, the new moon, just before it goes to 000, you can use the apps for now to help train you in identifying the new moons, so that way you can align your the lunar Sabbath according to the scriptures. So that way, if the event you don't have internet no more, you have an understanding on how to align it according to the moon, because the moon is going to be what represents your Sabbath. So in the new moon, when it goes 000, when it's completely dark, right? And sometimes you might not be able to see the moon because it could be under the earth, it could be cloudy, and so on and so forth. But if you have a continuing cycle and practice it, then it's going to be a little easier for you. And if you get dislodged, always look towards the full moon as representing the 15th day of that month. So you're just like, oh, I was off a day, or we were ahead a day or 2 days, so on and so forth. The full moon is going to help you realign your Sabbaths. And as we practice this and get better at it, we're gonna, come into the understanding in the fold. So the new moon and our Sabbaths, our days, the Hebrew ways are represented as from evening until evening, represent from evening to evening. We don't follow the morning being the first day. It's from evening to evening. And that's represented in Genesis 1 chapter. It says evening and morning were the first day, roughly paraphrasing. So your Sabbath from that evening when the moon is now dark, boop, that's your first day. So from evening starts your first day of the work week, right? Boop. And then this is the Hebrew day. So we have our evening to evening to the next day represented as the first day, going into the second day, boom, 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 day 8. And then we continue that cycle, and we find that we find ourselves on the 15th day of the new of that month. You'll find that it's a new moon, and then you'll keep that cycle all the way through. And as you train yourself, you'll get better and better. You're not probably going to get it right the first time, the second time, the fifth time, in the 6th month. It has to be, weaning yourself off of the things of this world and understanding in order to walk firmly in understanding, because this information has been suppressed, hidden. There's so much that covers the understanding that we're only now waking up to the truth. So we're trying to get it right. And that's all we can do is continue to learn and build our understanding to get it right. Right. So that's that. Ezekiel 45 and verse 17, tying in the new moons represented as the beginning of the month, when you are to bring up your peace offerings and so on and so forth. And we're not practicing animal sacrifices no more. So we offer up our bodies a living sacrifice. We're an atonement for our offerings of praise, offerings of thanksgiving, keeping his words at the forefront of our minds. These are all, if we keep the law, statutes, and commandments, that's offerings. Scriptures talks about, how, him keeping the commandments is offerings enough. Ezekiel 45 and 17, it says, and it shall be the prince's part to give burnt offerings. This is your priests, your priest. And it shall be the prince's part to give burnt offerings and meat offerings and drink offerings in the feasts and in the new moons and in the Sabbaths and all solemnities of the house of Israel. You're probably thinking, well, it says new moons, that being separate from the Sabbaths. Well, there's only one day represented as the new moon being a Sabbath, but every other day after that is considered a Sabbath, not a new moon. Does that make sense? The first day of the new moon, the first day of the month, is represented as a Sabbath, represented as a new moon being a Sabbath, but every day after that is a Sabbath, not a new moon. That's why it's written that way. So, new moons and in the Sabbaths, and in particularly on the new moon, it's treated as a Sabbath because you have to give up your offerings. You have to blow the trumpet in the new moon. And if you're doing all these things, you're not going to be getting your work day done and then jumping into the Sabbath. Everything has to be done decently and in order. Moving on. Verse 17 of Ezekiel 45, it says, he shall prepare the sin offering and the meat offering and the burnt offering and the peace offering to make reconciliation for the house of Yasha'Allah. Thus saith Yahweh Power, in the first month, in the first day of the month. So you have to be able to identify when the first month of the first day of the month is for the whole year, right? You have to know that. And how is that identified? It's identified by the moon. Where am I at? thou shalt take a young bullock without blemish and cleanse the sanctuary, and the priest shall take the blood of the sin offering and put it on the post of the house. Put that blood on the post of the house. That's post of the house. So if you're partaking in the Sabbaths in the time appointed, in the correct alignment according to the scripture, it's also suggested here that that's when you will receive that covering, that blood covering over the post of your house. And upon the four corners of the settle of the altar, and upon the post of the gate of the inner court. And so thou shalt do the 7th day of the month. So from the new moon and on the 7th day, this is supposed to be repeated. So in between that, first day of the month and the 7th day of the month, which is going to also be a Sabbath, that's when you bring up your offerings again. You know, every Sabbath we're supposed to come forth with offering. Do not appear before the Most High Yahweh empty-handed, which was today's verse of the day. So, and so thou shalt do on the 7th day of the month, for every one that erreth, and for him that is simple, so shall ye reconcile the house. Continuing on in verse 45 of Ezekiel, it says, in the 1st month, in the 14th day of the month, ye shall have the Passover, a feast of 7 days. So, on the 1st day of the month, represented as the new moon, you bring forth your offering. On the 7th day, you do the same. And on the 14th day, leading into the evening, which will be on the 15th day, ye shall have the Passover, a feast of 7 days. So 7 days you have this feast of unleavened bread, which represents the Passover, that starts on the 14th day, the 15th day, again. So you would start that evening. You would start, this is represented as the day of the 14th, and then this line here represents the evening going into the evening. So you would have your Feast of Unleavened Bread here, and that'll be representative of the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, because now you are in the 15th day, then evening, when it's full moon. Right? Boom. Verse 22, Ezekiel 45. And upon that day shall the prince prepare for himself and for all the people of the land a bullock for a sin offering. So on these particular gatherings, you see that the people are coming together to offer up their sin offerings. The format has never changed. The understanding has changed. The format has never changed. Right? And upon the day shall the prince prepare for himself and for the people of the land a bullock for a sin offering. And 7 days of the feast he shall prepare burnt offering to Yahweh. 7 bullocks and so on and so forth. We're going to go down to 25. In the 7th month, in the 15th day of the month, shall he do the like in the feast of the 7 days, according to the sin offering. It's telling you to repeat the pattern in the 7th month that you have done in the 1st month. So we have the end gathering, Sukkot, Tabernacles, all the fall feasts. They're to mirror the spring feasts. And the Sabbath are supposed to be represented the same way, according to the lunar moon, to align all those feast days. Right? That's right here. Ezekiel 46. Thus saith Yahweh power, the gate of the inner court, pay attention, the gate of the inner court that looketh towards the east shall be shut the 6 working days. I don't know if I can draw this out. Maybe I can draw it out. But for those that need to visually see what I'm talking about, I'll try and draw it out. Okay. And this is representative of the tabernacle, the inner court and the outer court, right? Boom, 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 boom. Okay? The tabernacle, inner court, outer court, directions. I don't know if it's going to be inverted on the camera, but north, east, south, and west, right? Continuing on. Ezekiel 46 and 1. Thus saith Yahweh power, the gate of the inner court that looketh towards the east shall be shut 6 working days. Because this is the gate that you bring your offerings to, right? 6 working days. But on the 7th it shall be opened. So on the 7th day, this gate is open. That represents open, right? So 6 working days, it's shut. But on the Sabbath, it is opened. And in the day of the new moon, it shall be opened. So, on the Sabbath, it's opened. On the Sabbaths, it's opened. And in the new moon, it's opened. I hope I'm reading that right. Right? Let's see. Do I have anything else? Oh, Psalms 81. We did that. Boom. Let's go to Amos 8 and 5. Amos 8 and 5. Okay, boom. It says, I'll start at 4. Amos 8 and 4, and then we'll read through a little bit to get a little understanding. It says, hear this, O ye that swallow up the needy, even to make the poor of the land to fail. It's talking about those that continue to oppress the poor and to abuse them and oppress them. Verse 5, saying, when will the new moon be gone, that we may sell corn? The new moon is represented by the Sabbath because you cannot buy or sell on the Sabbath day, right? No buying or selling. That's in the law on the Sabbath day. So here it says, saying, when will the new moon be gone, that we may sell corn, and the Sabbath, that we may set forth wheat, making the ephah small and the shekel great, and falsifying the balances by deceit. So the Most High says he hates a false balance. He hates false balances and he hates lies. So what is being said here, and it's deduction by reasoning. You have to have some reasoning skills to actually formulate these ideas, to have it be presented to you with sound wisdom and understanding. So, verse 5, it says, saying, when will the new moon be gone? New moon represents, the beginning of your months. It's also represented as a Sabbath day, which can be looked at as a high holy day in a sense, because it's Kodash, it's holy, it's set apart. Not saying that the other Sabbaths are not holy and set apart. They truly are, because that's the day that we congregate and we share in like-mindedness in the same rawach, same spirit, coming together with truth and sound doctrine based and established within the scriptures, because we put together some homework, we studied to show ourselves approved, so that way we have a firm grip on what is being said here, so we're not led astray. We're not having someone entice us with song and dance and carnal feasts. But this is how we truly feast. This is how we eat. This is the bread, Matthew 4 and 4. This is what's going to sustain you, this truth. Because when you stand on truth, you have no fear. Why would you have any fear if you have true sound understanding, right? So I pray that this was edifying. Let me see if I have any more notes. So again, like, you go into Leviticus chapter 23 to keep these feast days. You have to appear before the Most High on the appointed time. It's not when you feel like showing up. It's not a day before. It's not a day after. But you put forth your best understanding, because if what is being presented to you right here is something that's going to lead you astray, and you don't accept it, who's accountable for it? Me. I'm accountable for it. But if you do not receive this word, and it ends up happening to be true, with all the truth substantiated, and you don't receive it, then who's liable for it then? You have to give an explanation of why you either received it or did not. Right? Let's go to Isaiah. No. Yeah. Let's go to Numbers 28. Numbers 28. Man. Sniffles. Numbers 28. Numbers 28. Come on. Darn. Numbers 28. Oh, man. Numbers 28, 9. Numbers 28, 9 to 11. Here's a good one. This is a good chapter too. Numbers 28, 9 to 11. And on the Sabbath day, 2 lambs of the first year without spot, and 2 tenth of flour for a meat offering, mingled with oil, and so on and so forth. So he's saying here, on the Sabbath day, you're to bring up your offerings, right? And again, this is just a blueprint, a formula of, we're getting some understanding here on how to apply it in these times here. We're no longer underneath an animal sacrifice covenant, but we're still practicing keeping the Sabbath holy, bringing it to remembrance, and offering up ourselves as those sacrificial atonements, right? Sacrifice the praise, and so on and so forth. Verse 10. This is the burnt offering of every Sabbath, besides the continual burnt offering and his drink offering. Verse 11. And in the beginnings of your month, ye shall offer a burnt offering unto Yahweh, and so on and so forth. It goes and gives you the breakdown of what is supposed to be brought out. Verse 14, the latter portion of that, it says, this is the burnt offering of every month throughout the months of the year. So it's a cycle. It's a cycle that doesn't skip a beat. Verse 18, in the first day shall be a holy convocation. Oh, this goes into the first month of the Passover and so forth. So these are represented as holy convocations, especially the beginning of your months, the new moons, right? You have to know when to blow the shofar within the new moon, Numbers 10:10, you know, because why are you blowing the shofar in the beginning of your months on the new moon? Because you're calling in the Sabbath. You're calling in the Sabbath to align them according to scriptures, to keep your moeds and everything in alignment. Everything has to be done decently and in order. Final precept I'll bring out maybe is Isaiah 66. Isaiah 66, and it's not for me to convince you. I'm just showing forth what is being presented. Right? So Isaiah 66 and 23 says, and it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, shall all flesh come to worship before me. So he says, from one new moon to the next new moon, all flesh is supposed to come together to worship him. And from one Sabbath to another Sabbath, all is supposed to come to worship him. Right? So again, from one new moon to the next new moon, to the next new moon, to the next, and Sabbath, you are to come before the Most High and worship him. Isaiah 66 and 23. And I have another one written down. Let's see. Maybe somebody out there can say, oh, I didn't hear that precept before. I never saw that one. I didn't align it that way. I'll bring it all out. That way my hands are clean. I showed them, Father. I showed them everything. Okay? Isaiah chapter 1, verses 12 to 14. It says, when you come to appear, this is him not accepting your sacrifices because you are considered defiled and you have some spots and blemishes in your feast days. Anything you have any sins in you and you have not purged them and you're still being disobedient, these will be spots on you. And when you come to appear before the Most High to worship him, he's going to say, you have stains on you. I'm not accepting any of your sacrifices. Next. So Isaiah 1 and 12 to 14, it says, when you come to appear before me, who hath required this at your hand to tread my courts, bring no more vain oblations. Incense is an abomination unto me. Your new moons and your Sabbaths, the calling of your assemblies, I cannot away with it. It is an iniquity, even the solemn meeting. Your new moons. He's identifying and saying that your new moons are special to him, as they should be to you, and how you are to appear before him on the new moons and on the Sabbaths. Right? My soul hateth. They are a trouble unto me. I am weary to bear them. Right? So, no matter, what you, if you appear before the Most High and not doing according to what he is telling you to do and not receiving sound wisdom in doctrine and instruction by the shepherds that he placed over you, he's not going to accept anything you bring to him unless you repent and turn from the error of your ways to now start walking upright. Right? So I pray that in this part 2 of the same lesson that you have been edified and received some portion of wisdom, or had heard something that can help you be edified in your own understanding. Not your own understanding, but his understanding. And trying to see if there's, taking a lot of notes. Final one, Exodus 40 and 1. It says, and Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, on the first day of the first month shalt thou set up the tabernacle of the tent of the congregation. I don't think they're doing any work, but they're setting up the house of the Most High Yahweh, right? So this is a solemn assembly as well. So with that being said, I pray this is edifying. Until the next time, Shalom.